Okay. We're in Brussels with Anna Guerberof. Is that well pronounced?
Guerberof-Arenas.
Arenas.
Yes.
So you published with the two?
My mother died in 2018, and I think I started signing then Guerberof-Arenas, which is the Spanish also way.
Yeah.
Because the Argentinian way is only Guerberof.
With a hyphen?
With a hyphen, I do it in English. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so there's the two family names in Spanish.
Arenas.
Anna, what are you doing at the moment?
So I am associate professor at the University of Groningen. I'm within the...
Where is Groningen?
Oh, good question, because the first time I thought it was, that I heard the name, I thought it was in Germany, but no, it's in the Netherlands, in the north of the Netherlands. So you have Friesland, Drenthe, and Groningen, which are the northern part of the Netherlands. And like they say in Groningen, I think this is very cute. It's 4 hours from Amsterdam to Groningen, and it's only 2 hours from Groningen to Amsterdam. So for the Dutch, Groningen is very far away.
Okay.
But for people from Groningen, it's very close by.
Okay. You're not Dutch, though, are you?
I'm not Dutch. I'm Argentinian. I'm Argentinian. But I studied translation in Granada.
Oh, wait. What's your job in Groningen?
My job in Groningen is associate professor of translation studies, and I'm within my research group is the GRO-NLP, which is the Natural Language Processing Group in Groningen. But where I teach, let's say, the translation master and the BA is within applied linguistics, because in the Netherlands, the translation tradition is slightly different than in Spain or other countries. It's not as well, I think, as well defined. It's usually within linguistics.
But you've got good money to do good research.
Yes.
On translation technologies.
Yeah.
That's what you're really doing there?
What I'm doing now is I got coincidentally a EU, a European Union, from the European Research Council grant, which is called ERC Consolidator, to study to uncover the creative process in translation when dealing with technology. In literary translation, but also in audiovisual
I gather
translation.
uncover was in inverted commas there?
No, it
Are
wasn't.
you uncovering something we don't know about?
I think we don't know much about the process.
Yeah.
We have some idea about what we mean when we say this is creative. Paul Kussmaul talked a little bit about the process based on psychology, saying, there is the preparation, the illumination, the brainstorming, illumination, verification. So there are these 4 basic steps that everyone kind of talks about in any creative process. But to look at the real creative process in translation, I think that it hasn't been studied a lot. Yeah. And when technology comes in, how does then technology modifies this process? This is not we don't know.
But you've co-published a paper arguing that with the technology there is less creativity. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, well, in what we saw is that when translators have machine translation as a default text, because it could be, which we didn't look at, that machine translation is given as an option, right? But as a default, like is given in some of the industries, like the publishing industry and also the AVT industry, we saw that not only translators said, I feel a bit constrained, but the results, as evaluated by several reviewers, was that they had more errors when post-editing and also less creative shifts than when they were working on their own.
Yeah.
Machine translation has some creative shifts, but machine translation tends to reproduction all the time. Yes. Reproduction structures, words, everything.
Probabilistic.
Yeah, but it could, but sometimes it's not. It's not that it's when people say probabilistic, they relate it to the source. But sometimes machine translation is probabilistic on the target.
Yeah.
So what in the n-gram list is the most probable choice?
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Which is good, because maybe in general context, this is the way you would say it. But in literary and marketing, maybe from that n-gram list, it's not the first option. Is another option.
Yeah, I would say risk averse, but that's just...
Yeah. So it's not only that the machine translation systems are not aware of other uses, it's that it presents you with one use.
Good. That's the problem. Anna, I wanted to go back to when you were in your mid-20s or thereabouts. What were you doing?
So you mentioned when I was 20, I was obviously studying, but I studied in Universidad de Granada.
Oh, let's go. You're from Argentina.
I'm from Argentina.
But you moved to Spain.
Moved to Spain.
You're studying in Granada. Right?
So I did. There was a dictatorship in Argentina. And the situation in Argentina, it's funny that I say this now because the situation right now is also quite critical. Yeah. But in those days, it was quite critically, politically and financially. So I was moved, let's say, I didn't move of my own accord to Granada. And I did high school. And then I went 1 year to the States with an exchange program. And then I decided on several avenues for university. One was translation and interpreting, history was another one, and literature was another one. And my first choice was art.
Like painting?
Painting, yeah.
Wow. And what happened?
So something that is typical from institutions, we had to do a test on painting, and I had been painting a lot in the States, so I was kind of freer. So I did a test, and they only admitted in June something like 19 students, and I wasn't included. But it was too little, right? And then in September, they admitted everyone. But me being how I am, I said, oh, this is going to be very old-fashioned. I don't want to be in this. And I got accepted in translation, which was my second choice.
Okay.
So I thought,
Do you regret that?
No, not at all, not at all. Although when we studied translation in those days, we had the 3-year program, and then we had to do this adaptation to the 4-year degree later on. We did realize, even in those days, that our degree of specialization in the subject matter was not very high. So I remember, because you asked me this, I was thinking, I remember with my friends in those days talking, but we don't really know something else apart from languages. We should maybe have studied law and translation, or medicine and translation. It is true that in those days, we were, at least in the Universidad de Granada, the professors were very tough with us, and they were saying, being a translator is very difficult, you're never going to be a translator. So maybe we started thinking, what is wrong with me, right?
But you got a job.
Yes.
You were working when I came into contact. You were in Barcelona working for a...
No, so I applied for several jobs, many jobs, because it was even then very difficult to get a job, because we didn't have experience, and the industry was very, very close. It wasn't called an industry as in your panel they mentioned today. So there was this new thing in Dublin opening up, which was software translation. So we applied to some of those things, and I went there.
Oh, you went to Dublin?
I went to Dublin in
Before
1992.
Working in Barcelona?
Oh, yeah.
Right,
I spent more than 10 years in Dublin.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I work... that's how...
working in
the industry, in localization, It wasn't called localization then, because we did a lot more stuff. I mean, I remember...
So you worked in software?
We worked in software, but imagine... The same company had translated the U2 songs the year before.
Oh, so you missed out on the U2.
I missed out in the U2, but what I mean is that in those days, there wasn't such a thing as only localization. You did everything. So I remember editing graphics, because it was bold, italics and that. And I have changed the letter to en negrita in the bitmap, because there weren't engineers doing that.
So this is indicating bold in Spanish, right?
Yeah, so we did a bit of everything, So it was a lot of technical translation, software, but I have done a lot of, in those days, voiceovers for games.
Oh, really?
Game localization, but the games
into Spanish, then,
into
right?
Spanish.
Okay.
So the game localization was very, in comparison to now, very simple games.
Yeah.
But we were translating the games, and I wasn't a gamer, so I needed the cheat sheets, to pass the levels to be able to understand what was going on. And then I did voiceover. So I did a lot of, in those days, the specialization, the complexity, and the speed was different than now.
We were talking about you working as an annotator as well.
No, that was
before.
Yeah. So then I went to Barcelona, that I was supposed to go for 3 months, and I ended up staying 15 years. And then I was already in management there, so I went to Barcelona as a vendor manager because they wanted to grow their database of translators, and I had a lot of experience in recruiting translators and selecting. And
so that was your period in Dublin. You moved very fast then in the industry. Well, no.
Well,
you were there for 9 or so years. Yes?
10 years. So I went from translator, editor, senior editor. I did freelancing for a while in Dublin. Then I went back to the industry because they asked me to be the head of the Spanish department in what was then Berlitz Translations, Berlitz Localization, which then Lionbridge bought that.
Okay.
Then in was Berlitz, Lionbridge, whatever.
Okay.
I became resource manager for Microsoft and then language manager for Microsoft. And then I left all that. I became a freelancer and went to Spain as a freelancer to...
Why?
Because
these are high-powered jobs in the best place in Europe to do it, surely.
In Dublin.
Yeah.
I think this is why I'm in academia, because I think the business world, you always reach a point where things become too much emphasis on the financial aspects more than on the intellectual aspects.
Yeah, sure.
And finance is also intellectual, right? When you have to make a project work financially, you have to be very acute and set up a business model. I'm not diminishing the work of people, but to me it always became a bit blah 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 blah. A lot of talk and less meat.
So moving to Spain was sort of to get out, but then you were doing...
No, I was freelancing.
You looked at academic work when in Spain, right?
Yeah. So I was freelancing in Dublin, back in freelancing, and then they called me from Barcelona because of my experience in Microsoft to be this vendor manager for 3 months because somebody was going on maternity leave. That girl has finished university. So I went to Spain to do this, and then the then operation manager gave up or present her resignation, and the owner asked me if I wanted to be the operation, and I had a lot of doubts. Should I stay or should I go? Should I go back to Dublin? And in the end I decided to stay in Barcelona. I was learning Catalan. And then while in the job as an operations manager, I wanted to do something more to learn. This was always my thing, that in business, you go to meetings and after a certain point you think, it's always the same conversation. Maybe in academia, sometimes it happens. But it's different because you can lead your own research you can be a bit more original.
So yeah, I mean, you turn up in the Autónoma in Barcelona in the Tradumática group.
So they
Well,
called
you
me
started
because of
teaching
my,
them.
my experience.
Yeah.
They called me to do a workshop.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. And they called me again and whatever. And then one Brazilian translator that is a friend of mine, she said, you should go and study with Anthony Pym.
Who was that? Doesn't matter. It doesn't.
No, but it's what's her name? She's back. She didn't finish the PhD, but she finished the master, because in those days it was the 2-year
All
master
right,
and the
okay.
4-year, and now she's back in.
Oh, in Tarragona, she'd done the 2.
Yeah,
yeah.
and now she's back in Bahia,
Oh.
and she was a friend of mine.
Okay, we'll look up her.
Yeah, no, I
okay,
will
yeah.
come back to me, and now with so many names. And I said, why? And she said, it's for people with experience, it's in English, and it's with the top people in translation studies.
What more could you want?
And I said, exactly. So I applied for your PhD, the one in La Autónoma and the one in Pompeu Fabra. And I got accepted, but I went to yours.
We are very grateful.
Yeah, no, I'm also very happy I did. Yeah.
Okay, we'll skip over that. You followed a researcher career, because after the PhD,
Yes.
you turn up in Dublin again.
With a Marie Curie co-fund with
Right,
Joss Morkins.
Yeah. And I mean, Dublin City University is the place that's done the most exciting research in this area, I think. And from there, I mean, you've carved out a career as a researcher, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is really amazing at my age, right? So it's never too
At
late.
any age, I think.
At any age.
Because you have
But
to
my
avoid...
age is difficult.
You reckon? You got lots of experience. I mean, I didn't know.
I got experience, but to be honest, it took me a long time to understand how academia worked. I mean, even now, I think now I'm understanding exactly how it works. And I think sometimes I was so naive, to get into this world thinking that I could. And I obviously did well.
But I think you're working on cutting-edge topics that are really important.
Yes.
I think that's it, really. I don't know if there's anything
But I
else
don't know if academia knew that. You
have to tell them.
You have to tell them.
Yeah.
And I was moving a lot with grants. I'm not saying that academia did not recognize my value, but there are a lot of valuable people in academia, right? So my idea was since the beginning that I was going to get money to do my research, because I thought I don't like to do what people tell me to do.
I've been dreaming of that forever.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
So anyway, I always apply, and when people ask me, should I apply? I always say, you apply. They will say no.
No, I tell everybody, apply for everything.
For everything.
Expect nothing.
Expect nothing.
If they refuse you, it doesn't
Nothing.
matter.
And I tell you, some of the selection processes that I've been through, I mean, only for going through the selection process, you almost deserve a prize, because tough, very tough, very, very tough. So it's a very competitive.
Anna, let's move to the. Congratulations on being successful. Now, what kind of research do you think we need in translation studies?
So I took some notes
Good,
during
the answer written.
So I wouldn't forget. So there were some things that we have discussed here that I think. So my experience, right? What I see people do research on. I did the thesis, as you know, on productivity of machine translation and translation memories, quality and experience. Very big thesis, a lot of statistics and that. In 2012. And I still see a lot of those topics. And I think we need to move on.
We've been there, yes.
We've been there, right?
Yeah.
But I do understand that people want to replicate the studies, say, with LLMs.
Yep,
or
absolutely.
with GPT, whatever. I understand, but look for a slightly new angle on the stuff, right? So I also see a lot of master students doing thesis on. I compare the translation from X to in French, Spanish. We do need some social awareness. So where is our research going to? Are you going to illuminate the profession, the public. So of course a lot of research is needed on the reception, on the user. How is the user using, as it were?
I think that's the big unknown.
Yeah. So I've done, quite a bit of that. And I think more is needed.
So you're doing, let's be clear, you're doing reception studies, how people receive machine translations, post-edited machine translations.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Also to do with creativity. If creativity really makes a difference, or if people don't really care. The other thing is something that you all mentioned in the talk, which are the socio-economic issues associated with the profession. How people perceive the job, how much they are being paid, the ergonomics even of the profession, a lot of more the society, the environment. Is the environment, how is that? What are the dynamics of power, like the speaker with Jaap was saying, right?
I'm sure that we're at a Translating Europe conference in Brussels, where we've had lots of discussion of these issues.
Yes. The other thing is, how is, people say language is degrading in a way with the use of automation. Do we know to what extent?
Let's test it.
Do we know if the language in the mother tongues is already getting, is it degrading, or is it just changing, right? So there are some NLP people that have looked at post-editees and translationists and all this, which is interesting. We need to know if this degradation, that we have an intuition, right? Because we read the newspaper, I read the newspaper online, and I think, that's not even a sentence, right? And why? Because these people are paid very little money to write something very quickly.
In the source language, you mean?
In the actual source.
Yeah, so it's something happening to language.
So if that is happening in the source, what is happening in the translation,
or
right?
we improve it.
Or we improve it. Well, not always you can. Everything to do with cognitive process, what happens in the brain, anything to do with translation and neuroscience. Very, very fascinating topic. Very niche at the moment, but interesting. I think we don't have anything there, and we should have more. There are a lot of studies now about gender bias, because it's a hot topic, gender bias. But there are other biases that we are not looking at, like representation of, I don't know, Latin Americans in the Spanish of AI, or, is the AI following certain cliches in the language? It's not only gender or neutral language that I'm interested in. Is how language in these models that are conservative, how these models shape the ideas, the political ideas, but also how they see the global south, the global north, and all that. That is interesting. And something that is very, very ethics and legal, I think, just probably talk about that, right? So ethics and legal is a hot topic as well. So that's necessary, but there is quite a lot going on there. But for example, something that I miss, and is very close to you, is theory. So
theory is a dirty word now.
But not the theory that somebody thinks. And I'm not talking about, like for example, the work that you do in theory is very relevant because you try to apply the theory to the practice, right? And this is, I think, what we miss with AI. What are the theories behind all this? Who can understand what is going on? Because we don't. I mean, so for me, it has been very, very useful, and it's something that I recommend to my colleagues or in very close scenarios, is that when I have read so much about creativity and theories from psychology from other fields, I realized that some of those frameworks, theoretical frameworks, can be used in my experimental research. But to talk about theories without any connection to the profession or the experimental settings, I don't think we need that. I don't need a guy talking about something that they thought by reading 2 or 3 books, you know, their ego is big, and they say, oh, this is the theory now. And everybody goes to the talk and says, I don't understand what that guy was talking about. And it's usually a guy. That's what I said, that guy. But, you know, we don't need that.
Okay.
We need theories that help us understand the world of translation, the world of reception, the world of AI.
Okay.
Even the people from AI sometimes say things that I think, that's a very bold statement. You know, I heard this.
Are you you're saying that we have to test the theories on some data?
Yes, exactly.
That's it.
We have to test the theories, but also make them understandable for people, for the lay people, so they understand the framework that you are dealing with.
Okay.
And this is very, very necessary, more than ever, I would say. Okay. So what I was saying is that these people from AI, they say, ChatGPT is intelligent. And you go, how? On what basis?
Yeah.
And what happens is that they don't have a theoretical framework to explain to us why do they think in which way they think this is intelligent. And I think it would be much easier to understand what they mean, or what we mean, when we say this is very good. What do we mean by that? What is good?
Okay.
You know?
So we need the theory to refine the concepts, to do the testing.
Very much.
That's it.
Because it's an unknown paradigm, you know.
Absolutely. Anna, thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony.